Hi everyone! I'm Mandy. Welcome to Souped Up Recipes. Have you ever tried xiaolongbao before? It's a soup dumpling, so when you bite into its delicate wrapper, a mouthful of broth will just burst out. Then you will find a tender meatball floating inside. As one of the finest dishes in China, xiaolongbao is not easy to make, but don't worry, I will demo every step as detailed as possible to guarantee you to achieve that restaurant result at home. I will show you how to make the rich, tasty broth. I have tips for you to make the dough extra stretchy in order to hold the soup inside. I also included lots of shortcuts, replacement, and meal prepping tips. So let's get started by making the broth jello because it's time consuming. You will need some collagen-rich ingredients. I'm using pork skin. During the simmering, the gelatin will dissolve into the soup. Then the broth will be able to coagulate after being chilled in the fridge. That is how you can wrap the soup inside. Besides that, I also like to add a few pieces of neck bones to give the soup a rich foundation. If you don't eat pork, you can use chicken feet and chicken bones as a replacement. Add them to a big pot and fill it with water. Partially put on the lid to prevent overflowing. Turn the heat to high and bring it to a boil. You will see some foamy scum floating on top of the water. That is what we are trying to get rid of. Discard the water. Rinse the pork skin and the bones to wash off the foamy scum. Use a chef's knife to remove any attached fat from the pork skin. We don't want the soup to be too oily. Cut the skin into bite-sized pieces using a pair of scissors. Smaller pieces encourage gelatin dissolution. Add the pork skin and the bones into a new clean pot, along with 6 to 8 slices of ginger and 2 to 3 scallions. Pour in 5 cups of water. Put on the lid and bring it to a boil. Here is my secret ingredient, a small piece of Jinhua ham. I love the rich umami taste that it brings into the broth. If you don't have it, use Italian prosciutto as a replacement because they taste similar. I'm going to use this half because it has the bone inside, perfect for making stock. Add it to the pot. Jinhua ham or Italian prosciutto is salty already, so we do not need to season the broth. Just turn the heat to the lowest and simmer it for 3 hours. Since we have some time to wait, let me share some great news with you. My cookbook is finally ready for sale. You can click the link in the description and purchase this great Chinese cookbook. I carefully selected 168 recipes featuring popular takeout dishes, easy family meals, various regional specialties, and classic traditional delicacy. Each recipe comes with a demo video, step-by-step photos, clear techniques, and secret tips. Whether you are a beginner or a seasoned chef, you'll be able to cook better than takeout and savor the local meals like the native Chinese. Alright, after 3 hours of simmering, the pork skin should be completely soft that you can easily break it apart with chopsticks. The broth should have a milky color and a creamy texture. Pour everything through a sieve into a measuring cup. We need about 300 grams of broth, which is about 1 1/4 cup. If you have more than that, you can reduce it over the stove. If you have less than that, don't worry, just add some water. Cover it and chill it in the fridge overnight or until it is set completely. The broth can stay good in the fridge for 3 days. You can definitely make it ahead of time so you don't slave yourself all day. I know, it is time consuming. So here, I will give you a cheating method, which only takes 10 minutes. You will need 4½ tablespoons of gelatin powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1½ to 2 cups of store-bought unsalted stock. To make up for the lack of taste, using a good quality stock is necessary. Bring it to a boil and let it simmer for 10 minutes or until you have about 1¼ cup of liquid left. The rest of the steps are the same, just chill it in the fridge until it settles, then mince the jello finely. This method is great for people who don't have time. However, pure gelatin powder would not give the soup that rich, sticky texture. You can compare the up and down sides, then choose your preferred way. The next day, the broth is settled. It should be dense and firm. Take the jello out, cut it into slabs, then strips, and finally mince it. Do this quickly because we don't want it to warm up at room temperature. Stick it back into the fridge for now because we will move on to making the wrapper dough. Xiaolongbao has very high requirements for the wrappers, so no shortcuts in buying pre-made wrappers because they are stiff and less stretchy. We have to make our own. You will need 300 grams of bread flour because it contains a higher percentage of gluten, which makes the dough smoother and more elastic. I'm not saying that you cannot use all-purpose flour at all. It's just there is a higher chance that you will end up with leaking dumplings. Dissolve ½ teaspoon of salt into 150 grams of water and pour the solution into the flour in batches. Stir to incorporate everything. You can knead this by hand, but I have arthritis, so I have to use a KitchenAid with the hook attachment. Let it run on low speed for 10 minutes or until the dough is smooth and elastic. Here is an important note. Every brand of flour has a different water absorbing rate, which can affect the consistency of the dough a lot. Please adjust the water ratio depending on your situation. If your dough comes out too sticky, add more flour. If your dough comes out too dry, add more water. Shape it into a short log. Cover it and let it rest for 1 hour. It's necessary to give the starches and gluten enough time to fully expand and absorb the water. Then the dough becomes stretchy. While waiting, let's make the filling. You will need ½ cup of finely minced scallions, 1 tablespoon of minced garlic, 2 teaspoons of minced ginger, a 1/4 teaspoon of white pepper, a 1/4 teaspoon of Sichuan peppercorn powder, and 1 tablespoon of roasted sesame seeds. Optionally, I like to crush them in a mortar and pestle to release the nutty flavor. If you don't have one, it is okay to skip this step. Heat 2 to 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil to smoking hot and pour it onto the aromatics to activate the flavor. Mix well and set it aside. I have got here 250 grams of pork shoulder. Cut it into bite-sized pieces. There is nothing wrong with using store-bought ground pork. I just like to choose my own cut and blend it in a food processor so I know the quality of the meat is good. This food processor is small, so I have to do it in 2 batches. Transfer the pork into a big mixing bowl. Season it with a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of sugar, 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, and the minced aromatics that we prepared before. Mix until well combined. Pour it into a 1/4 cup of water in batches. Stir the meat in one direction to develop the texture. Add a little bit more water and continue to stir until all the liquid is absorbed. Okay, that looks good. Combine the meat with the minced broth jello. Continue to mix for a few minutes or until everything sticks together. Soup dumplings has many different fillings, such as beef, chicken, crab, and other seafood. You can switch the proteins if you want, but pork is classic. Cover it and set it in the fridge for now. The dough has been rested for 1 hour. Take it out, It becomes so soft and you can easily roll it into a long, even strip. Divide the strip into 32 even pieces, about 14 grams each. You can use a skill. I'm just going with my eyes. I like to flip the strip in between each cut to avoid the cut surfaces from sticking to each other. Sprinkle some flour and cover them with plastic film so they don't dry out. Alright, let's wrap the dumplings. Take one piece of the dough. Put the cut surface facing vertically. Sprinkle some flour and flatten it. Then use a rolling pin to roll the edge back and forth. Simultaneously, use your left hand to rotate the dough. Repeat that, and you will get a round wrapper with a thick middle and a thinner edge, about 3 inches in diameter. Put some filling in the middle and pack it tight. Use your left hand to hold the dumpling. Use your right hand to pinch the edge and fold pleats all the way around. Each pleat is about 1/5 of an inch wide. Also, you should slightly pull the wrapper between each pinch and fold. That is how you can get the dumpling looking tight and neat. You may find that the filling is so full, just use your thumb to press it back down. When you get to the end, twist and pinch to close the dumpling. There you go. Look how pretty that is. The wrapper and filling ratio really affects the eating experience. We want the skin to be super thin and delicate, so you should wrap as much filling as you can. For a 14-gram wrapper, I am using 25 grams of filling, but that would take a lot of practice. For beginners, you may want to go down to 18 grams instead. Fold a parchment paper in half, twice. Then fold along the angular bisector line, twice. Trim it into the sides of your steamer, then cut some holes to allow the steam to go through. We will use it to prevent sticking. Put the dumplings in one by one. Leave some space between them because they will become flatter after cooked. You don't want them to stick to each other. Once you finish wrapping, here comes the most asked question. Can you freeze them? Well, technically you can freeze and reheat any food, but whether the soup will remain, that really depends on the time. If you freeze the dumplings for about 2 weeks, about 30% of the dumplings will break and leak. If you freeze them for 1 month, about 50% of the dumplings will break and leak. So I don't really recommend you to freeze soup dumplings. Alright, let's start steaming. Bring a pot of water to a boil. Put the steamer on and steam over high heat for 15 minutes. While waiting, let's make a dipping sauce. You will need 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, 2 teaspoons of light soy sauce, and some thinly julienned ginger. The dumplings are ready. Although it looks amazing, biting into it right away will probably cause the hot soup spilling all over your shirt. There is a proper way to eat this, and locals even have a limerick about it. Pick it up by its top knot and carefully move to a serving dish. Make a small opening to allow the soup to flow out. Blow to cool it a little bit and take a sip to enjoy the purest flavor. Add the dipping sauce along with a couple of ginger juliennes. Eat it in one bite. You'll be amazed by its rich taste. It does take a lot of effort to make soup dumplings, but it is totally worth it. I hope you give this a try soon. As always, the printable recipe link is in the description. Go check it out. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for more delicious and authentic Chinese food. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!